Hey everybody, it's John from Summit Coatings. Today's video is going to be about how to make sample boards for your customers. This is a piece of MDF. I don't even know what thickness it is. It came in a 4x8 sheet. And then I chopped it up into 16 pieces. They're each 1 by 24 inches long. This was the only size they had at Home Depot, and Lowe's was completely out of MDF. It was only 49 bucks, works out to be under $3 a piece for each sample. And technically, if you wanted to, you could do a sample on each side. Now, some customers, when you show them a bag of flake, they're like, sure, throw it down, let's get it done. Same thing with epoxy floors. They'll pick out some colors and they'll just say, go ahead and do your thing. Other customers want to see it in action. They want to see the final product. Now, when you do a dirty pour or epoxy pours, it's never going to look exactly like it does on your sample board, but it'll give the customer an idea of what the final color scheme will be in the big picture of things. And of course, flake is flake. It's always going to look the same. I'm actually doing this project with my daughter today because she's going to a slumber party tomorrow night. It's a birthday slumber party, and she's starting to show some interest in epoxy and art. And I thought this would be a fun way for her to get some epoxy experience, make her friend a birthday present, and then we can show you all about how to make a sample board for a potential customer. So let's jump into this and look at the tools we need. All right, let's start in the back row here and work our way forward. We've got a 3-gallon kit here of rock hard A and B. I mark them on top. This is the batch I use for making samples and art projects and stuff and whatever. If you wanted to do something a lot quicker, you could do a poly, but that's more expensive, and usually for art projects and samples, you're not in a huge rush. Back here, we got all of our pigments, we got glitter, we got our metallics, stirring sticks, different size mixing cups. Again, more colors. We've got some high-tech stands here for the MDF board. And gloves, 6-inch roller, blue painter's tape. Have an orbital sander here. This is 40 grit. You need to sand down the top of the MDF to give it some, well, it's not CSP, concrete surface profile, it's concrete surface profile, it's MDF profile. You have to give something that the epoxy can grip onto. And then after we sand it, we got to hit it with some denatured alcohol and a microfiber to make sure it's clean, because right now, I run my finger across. I just sanded it outside to keep the dust down, but you can see how much dust is still on there, and of course on my finger here. One other thing that we need, and I'll have to go grab that from the truck, is a level. So we're going to use a level to make sure that the boards here on the table are not tilted drastically one way or the other, because then when we pour the epoxy, of course, it's going to pull up on that side. So if needed, you can put some shims underneath the cups here to just raise up the sides that are low, bring it to level, and you're good to go. So let's start the cleaning process and the taping process, and we'll jump right into this. So let's check for level. Hey, that's pretty close. And let's go this way. There's a slight lean to it, but hey, we're not sending a rocket to the moon. We're making a sample board here, so that's good enough for me. So as always, when working with epoxy, clean, 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 clean. Spray some isopropyl alcohol down. Get your microfiber cloth and give the boards a good wipe down. Okay, so we cleaned up the boards. We have our part A, part B. I guess I'll put the part A over here next to the pigment. We always mix pigments, tints, glitter, everything into part A and pour the part B, the hardener, into it. We're gonna use gray as our base color. I wanted to use white, but I'm out of white, so gray is going to work. Basically, what we're looking for is to use this first layer as a primer and get it on the boards here. The one thing about your pigments, your liquid pigments, you always have to mix them. I'm not sure if you can see this on camera here, but it's kind of like the bottle of ketchup when it sits in the fridge for a couple of weeks. It kind of separates, and you need to get this all mixed in, scraping the bottoms and the sides and the top. So we'll get that done right now, and we'll pour it into the part A. Okay, so we did the pre-mix of the pigment here, or the liquid color, and it's looking good. So how much do we need to put in for our 12 ounces? Well, that's a good question. I could probably figure out the math, but I'm not Rain Man. But we do know that it should be applied at 16 ounces per gallon for the 3-gallon kit. But we're just making a primer. We're doing an art project here. So what we're going to do is make a little happy color. And we'll give this a mix. We just want a little bit of base color there. And why don't you start mixing? And I should add that we need to mix this for about a minute. So it's important to scrape the sides, the bottom. In a minute to 2 minutes, you'll see when it all gets mixed in there and it starts looking good. Okay, so now, probably put too much in there, but whatever. It looks good to me. We're gonna go ahead and add the hardener, part B, into the part A, and take the dirty stick out and put it in that cup and use that clean stick. Okay. Now here's the important part. We need to mix this for 3 minutes. 3 minutes. You gotta scrape the sides, you gotta scrape the bottom, and you need the 3 minutes. If you don't do a good job scraping the sides and the bottom, you'll end up with some partially mixed portions of A and B, and that will never set up. It's never gonna get hard, and it won't make you happy. So just mix it for 3 minutes. Okay, so for every single job you do with rollers, you gotta wrap it in painter's tape. You gotta get rid of the lint. That's for big floors, small projects, everything. So, okay, kid, take that tape off. Okay, so the clock's kind of ticking here, but we're not in a huge rush. We're gonna go ahead and pour kind of a bigger spot right here just to get the roller nice and wet. Then we're gonna bring this ribbon out towards the edge here. Now what you wanna do is go ahead and get your roller wet. Get that dry spot. And I'm gonna add a little bit more. And you don't push hard. You wanna just roll the product towards you. So that's when your roller's not wet. So get some more over here. And then go back down that part. And that first part there where you missed. And don't worry about those streaks. Maybe do this one right here. And we're gonna, it's called back rolling, but we'll take care of that later. Now do the sides. Okay, so we got our primer coat on here. On both of these guys here, we got the sides and top. It's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so tomorrow morning we'll hit this up. Now remember, if you can't get to adding your new colors on top of your primer coat within 24 hours, you got to hit it with sandpaper and clean it off. Okay, it's the next morning. Everything turned out great. We're gonna get set up. We're gonna tape these, and then we're gonna mix 4 different colors. We're gonna do a straight epoxy pour on this one probably, and we'll do a dirty one on this one. So let's get these things taped up. Okay, everyone, so we got our painter's tape wrapped around the sides of our sample boards here to keep the epoxy on top. We'll peel it off once it starts to set off and let it run over the edges. My daughter's picked out her colors here, and we're gonna put a little glitter into one of them. We're gonna do a solid epoxy pour on this one, and we'll do a dirty pour over here. Right now, my daughter's gonna pour the part B into the part A. And we're gonna mix for 3 minutes, scraping the sides, the bottom, and the top. And once again, it's very important. You gotta hit the bottom, you gotta hit the sides. You don't wanna have any parts of this mixture not completely mixed because it'll never cure and you'll get soft spots. Also, don't be too aggressive with your mix. You don't want to get air bubbles in there, but you definitely wanna mix for 3 minutes. Here we go. All right, we just got done with our 3-minute mix. We're going to separate this out. Into 4 cups. Oh, that's okay. We're going to steal a little from Peter. Making a mess here. All right, so basically we're going to do a little metallic silver here. Pigments, you gotta be careful with. This stuff likes to go airborne. And how much do you use? I don't know. We're gonna use this much. Basically, you don't wanna be able to see through it when it's in your cup. A little goes a long way. And for this peacock here, my daughter wants to put some glitter. Glitter, you barely need any glitter to make it happen. And then here we go here. And why don't you start mixing? Okay, so we're all mixed up here. We got 4 colors and we're off to the races. There's no rules here, you guys. You can do whatever you want. You can do wavy things, you can do dots, blots, blobs. No rules. Wherever you want. This is my daughter's very first time doing this. I can already tell it's going to come out looking great. After we get done with this, we're going to let it sit here probably 20, 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes. We'll see how it looks. And then we'll pull up the tape. And then once we pull up the tape, the epoxy will run down the sides of the boards. And it'll give it a really cool look. Okay, so now we have the option to leave it as it is, or we can do, it's up to you. You can do some cool things like that. You can mix it up. Don't mix it up too much, but you can kind of incorporate it, or you can do things like this too. You can follow where the two colors meet and kind of blend it in a little bit. But again, there's no rules. You can do whatever you want.
Okay, I like it.
And a cool thing I like to do, and watch this, hit it up with some denatured alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, and watch what this does.
Ooh.
So that there is a straight pour epoxy with some manipulation. And look already what's happening here with the alcohol on top. It's really giving it a cool effect. And it looks like this now, but in 20 minutes, it's gonna look completely different. You won't even recognize it. So we'll come back to this one. And next up, we're gonna do a dirty pour over here. I really like this effect, and let's jump into it. All right, so here we go in our dirty pour here. We're gonna do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Now we got way too much for this one board here, but it's just easier when you do a 3-to-1 ratio, just to mix a little extra. It's always better to have more than less. You never want to be in a situation where you're almost there and then you have to panic mix a final cup. And here we go. Okay, here we go with the dirty pour. Thinner pipes, thin, 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 thin. I said there are no rules, but generally you don't want to put a big blob like that down. You want to kind of just do thinner ribbons for your dirty pour. So these are the same exact colors that we used earlier. And we don't have to use up the full amount of epoxy that we have in the cup here. We just kind of want to do these random thinner patterns, I guess, and fill up the board. Because every time you add a new layer, a new ribbon, it's going to get a different pattern as you go through the cup. And again, this is my daughter's first time that she's ever done this, and it's going to come out great. That's the thing about epoxy, man. You pick some cool colors. That's probably enough pipes. You pick some cool colors and you just let it do what it wants to do. And then again, I love hitting it with the alcohol because it really just makes it pop. Watch this. Come check this out. So here we got the same exact colors that we use here for the dirty pour. And you see the difference between how that's turning out. And again, it'll look completely different here in about half an hour. And here's our straight epoxy pour. And again, that's not done doing its thing either. Once you pull the tape, it's going to kind of, well, it'll morph into something different. And here's our dirty pour. And that's looking great. I love these spots. I love how the alcohol brings out these textures and colors. And we'll come pill the tape in about half an hour. All right, guys, let's wrap this up here. I did the classic mistake of, I thought I pushed the record button and I didn't. So I don't have the peeling of the tape on the borders, but a lot of things were going on, got distracted, probably waited a little bit too long. But all in all, everything turned out great, man. Looks good. Gonna mount this little bracket on the back here so they can hang this on the wall. I was late on getting back to it and cutting off the drips here, but you can just take a sander to that. I got 40 grit here, be gone in a second. Let me give you a little close-up of what we have left here. So here we go. That's the straight pour. This is the dirty pour. And this is just we had a blowout in one of the tape sides seams. And I think my daughter's gonna do something cool with that. Not sure what she's gonna do, but then, yeah, just to mount this on the back with some nails from a standard hanging kit, we're good to go. And you're probably wondering why I have 2 dust shrouds, but that's gonna be in the next video here. There are good and there are bad dust shrouds, and I'm gonna tell you what's good and what's bad, so we'll get to that. All right, everyone. Hey, I hope you guys like that video. Again, sample boards are great. They're easy to do. They don't cost very much. It's a great way to show your customers what you're gonna produce for them. It's always good to have like a flake board in your truck, maybe a quartz. You can do a straight color. I like them. They're fun to do. As you saw, my daughter loved doing it. And yeah. Hey, check back in for more videos. Got a lot of new content coming up. Thanks for watching Summit Coatings.